here's the thing, Sarah. Here's why you're here. I want to give everybody some context. So Sarah has a podcast, and it's phenomenal. And it's such an example to me of what is really the goal, because I always talk about how it's really essential to create quality engagement. Like, it's not about vanity metrics. It's really about building community. And I feel like the thing that you do better than anyone I know is you show up as your full-on total self, the messy parts, the really cool parts, and even the things that like we're all thinking that we don't say out loud. And then you're like, here it is. I'm going to say that. Sometimes you're having like a meltdown, like on your Instagram stories. But what's happened, my friends, is that the women who are in Sarah's community have just like made her into the best friend that they just haven't met in person yet. Like, you don't really have an audience. You have a girl squad of women who will literally hang on your every word, because you're the only bastion of authenticity in their entire life. Like, in every part of their life, you're the most authentic human. So that takes, I don't even know what that takes, because it's more than courage, because it's just not even seen very often in nature and the way the world is. So it's like more than courage. It's like boldness. It's like being comfortable in your skin, but also totally uncomfortable, and being willing to share that too. So I want to talk about you and your platform and your podcast and all the things you talk about on your podcast. So yay.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. You know how much I adore you and everything that you bring to so many of us in our lives.
Thanks.
I met Cathy because I'm actually a listener of her podcast, like an avid listener of her podcast.
Yeah, she was so unbelievably adorable. I was at the Brentwood Country Mart with my daughters, and she walks over and she's like, oh my God, so hi, I listened to your show. And I was like, I love you. I was like, it happens like 7 times a year. And so whenever it happens, I'm like, guys, did you see mommy is a someone? You got it, right? You caught that moment. It's like, makes me feel so good. And so then I was like, oh, tell me 6 things about yourself. And of the 6 things, we had like 5 in common. And I was like, do you want to come over? And we became really good friends. So that was awesome. But let's talk about it, because I feel like it's one thing for people to look at like something that I'm doing and they're like, oh, that's really cool. And you're about 11 steps down the road. And then they look at someone like you and they're like, holy shit, that's really cool. And you're like 9 steps down the road. And then there's other people who are like 2 steps down the road, and that's also really helpful, right? Like, at every level, it's so encouraging, because you can see a little bit further than where you can see in this moment. And so Sarah tends to do the annoying thing where she compares herself to me, and I'm looking at her going, well, if you really want to be honest, Sarah, I'm like, if you really want to be honest and compare yourself to me, then you should look at where I was at that time, because you've only had your podcast and your whole platform for, I want to say 2.5. Is it 2.5 years? Yeah. So in 2.5 years in, you're just like crushing it. And so I think
imposter syndrome, it's real, guys.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you built this like juicy super fan audience, because that's really what I always tell people is the goal. And let's talk about the concept of the flexible neurotic, which is what your show's about. Which I, by the way, love that you have a podcast called The Flexible Neurotic and you have a PhD. Like, I love that you are both of those things. Like,
I'm
that's
all of
the
it.
whole point. So
I'm
let's
a fucking
talk about
conundrum. Can I
Yeah,
curse? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's fine. We can handle it.
Okay.
So tell us how you started it. Like, why did you think to start it?
Okay, so the short story of it is, hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for taking the time and sharing your energy with me. And obviously, thank you to Cathy. The short story is, I was like this kind of like super nerd, like, kind of like the pretty nerd, the girl who like got all her schoolwork done, checked all my boxes, went to an Ivy League school, even though I wasn't expecting to because everyone in my high school did. And I got married to a guy I met in ninth grade. I know Cathy's fascinated by that.
He's
It's like,
so cute. I can't even stand it. Like,
it's totally crazy. We haven't been together since ninth grade, but we've been together. I dumped him in ninth grade for a senior, and then we've been together for 27 consecutive years since before sophomore year of college. I got my PhD in educational psychology, and I grew up in a house with a working mom who was a CEO. And so in my mind, I was always going to be this like badass, CEO type personality, and I was always going to have a career. Fast forward, I was teaching in the graduate school of USC. I was married. I got pregnant with my son. I had my son, and then something shifted inside of me, and I didn't want to leave the house. Like I didn't want to leave my kid. And it was such a disruption to what I had always envisioned for myself. And it was a big disruption for my parents. They were like, what's happening here? Like, this is not what we were doing. This is not the plan. And I just felt like I just needed to kind of stick with my own intuition and really just get comfortable with that. And it was hard. But at the same time, like, as we know, the grass is always greener. So there were a lot of groundhog days and a lot of days of like, why did I do this? This is so boring. I'd rather be doing what she's doing. But overall, it was really where my heart wanted to be and where I wanted to be. So basically, I was a stay-at-home mom for 18 years. And during that time, I was like on the school board and this and that and all those things, but I always knew deep down inside of me that I wanted something that was my own, like that wasn't related to my kids or my parents or my husband, like just mine. But how was I going to do that? So on my 45th birthday, my daughter, I guess at the time, maybe she was 13, she gave me a gold box, and she had all my friends write inscriptions like, what do you think of my mom? And when I opened the
cute.
box, I know I could cry. When I opened the box, it was like my go-to friend, my researcher friend, my friend who like knows all the answers to my questions, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, God, like, there's like a theme here. And I had a severe case of what I call the midlife itchies. I was itching for something else. I wanted something more. I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to have an affair with a tennis teacher, even though I don't even play tennis. But like, I knew a sports car wasn't going to help, all the things. And I was just like, I have a severe case of the midlife itchies. How am I going to scratch these? It just seems like so much work. What do I do next? People are like, oh, I have these passions. I'm like, I don't really have any like super passions. Like, I don't know if I have any super skill sets, So I thought, what am I going to do next? Like, my kids are 16 and 14, and like, they don't really need me that much anymore. And I don't play pickleball as of yet. I'm sure many of you do. I'm not exactly the most athletic person. I've played once, but I'm going to get back to that. And I don't play Mahjong, which I need to do also. Those are like my two like midlife goals in addition to having started this podcast. I have to get back to those. So I met with a friend, and this would be like one of my tips for people. Like, find someone that is similar to you that's like 5 steps ahead of you. Sort of like Cathy Heller is 19,000 steps ahead of me. So I found a friend who was 5 steps ahead of me. And I went on a walk with her, and she said, I was a stay-at-home mom too. I hired a life coach. And I was like, a life coach? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I live in LA, and I don't even know what a life coach. This was like, 3 years ago or whatever. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll trust you. So I hired a life coach, and I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. And she was like, okay. So we started thinking about, what are you good at? What are the things you like? And I didn't have something specific. Like, I'm really interested in like flamenco dancing, or I've always been interested in like biblical story. Like, I didn't have anything like that. It was like, I'm a nerd. I like to do research. I like to talk. I like to connect with people. I like to read. Okay, well, what am I going to do with that? And my husband was like, please don't write a book. Writing a book is so solitary and like you're dying to get out of the house. Writing a book is just going to kind of keep you like more in a room for now. COVID hits 2 weeks later after my first session with the life coach. And I was like, wait, I thought this was supposed to change my whole life. And now I'm being like trapped in my house. But I have to say, it was a gift in a certain way, because it sort of like forced me to be at home and start Googling like, how do you start a podcast? I mean, everyone thinks I have this like magic secret. Like there was no magic secret. It's like me doing what everyone else should be or would be doing. It's like, how do you start a podcast? How do you record a trailer? How do you come up with a name for your podcast? So it's not like I went out and hired some huge podcast company and created this overnight sensation. No, it was like scrappy and messy. And I was yelling at my husband and my kids, can somebody help me? Like, what's happening here? And I was a social media virgin. Let's just put that out there. I'd never been on Facebook. I didn't even know how to log into Facebook. This was 3 years ago. I did not have Instagram, nothing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. And everyone kind of calls me the flexible neurotic, because I'm like one of those people where I research the hell out of something to the point where like I know it from A to Z, but then once I make my decision, I'm good. And then there's no turning back. So I'm like, I'm going to call my podcast the flexible neurotic. And when I first started it, I didn't know that I was going to focus it on midlife. But then what I realized after the first episode and I started getting feedback is everything I'm talking about and thinking about is what I'm looking for myself, answers for myself in my own midlife journey. And so I thought, well, what if I niche my podcast to midlife women who are trying to figure out what's next for them in midlife, because that's what I'm doing right now. And I want to bring everyone on this road with me so they see how imperfect and messy and fabulous and uncomfortable this whole journey really is. And I think the relatability factor of like, yes, I wear makeup at carpool. I'm honest about it. I lay it out there. I'm also like the girl who's like really scrappy in her pajamas in the morning on Instagram with like mascara on my face. And I'm crying that my teenage son just left for college. Like I'm all the things. And I think that the relatability factor has been the key to this podcast. So essentially by accident, I created a midlife self-reinvention podcast, inspiring and normalizing the Uggs and fabulosities of midlife.
Isn't that so inspiring, you guys? So let me just put this into more context for you. So she hadn't had a social media presence. She showed up exactly how and you're all going to want to go follow her for the pure enjoyment. I tell her that she's like the better real life version of Carrie Bradshaw. Like she is hilarious. Like when she sends me a text, I'm like, this is a blog. Like who texts the word vagina 16 times? Like
it's like verbal diarrhea, basically.
I die from her texts. And so her social media account, which I know you can't see because like whatever, but she has 52,000 followers. This is what's more significant than that, is that if you just click on a random post, this post I just clicked on from August 24th, I just clicked literally on a random post, has 276 comments. Okay. That's gold. That's literally liquid gold being poured down on you from the heavens because the engagement factor is so high. This is where we all want to be hanging out. We want to be hanging out in what we have created as a very cohesive, gorgeous community of souls. When that happens, so here then Sarah meets me. She had already had this going on. She and I only met about a year ago. So we meet last fall and she's like, okay, tell me what to do. Like, I do have now like a decent amount of downloads, like I'm doing great, but like, how do I monetize this? And I was like, Sarah, have you ever asked them to pay for anything? And she's like, nope, not yet. And I'm like, okay, here it comes, like Braveheart, like coming over the mountain, like thousands. I was like, just you have to be allowing of it. Just like, okay, all right, what do I do? So I'm like, you're gonna create whatever feels the most fun right now. Do you feel like creating some kind of a membership? Do you feel like creating a course? Do you feel like creating a retreat? And she's like, maybe an event. Like, I'll start with that. And so she's like, but who's gonna come? Who's gonna come? And how many DMs did you get when you talked about that retreat?
A lot, but what was interesting about it is I got 470 of 470 individual DMs from women who were like, I'm so sorry I can't come on that date because you had to fly to LA to come to my house. My sister's cousin's wedding is in Greece, or my son has a lacrosse tournament or whatever. And I was like, I don't even know these 473 people. And the fact that they would go out of their way to message me to tell me why they can't come, but how much they really want to come, I was so moved. I can't tell you.
And what was also so moving is when the event did happen and she had all these women show up at her house who she didn't know.
Didn't know.
They flew in from like Ohio and Pennsylvania and like New York and wherever.
One woman came from the UK.
Yeah, one woman. And you were like so in the imposters and like, how's this going to go down? And I was like, just be yourself. You're so good at it. Like, people are going to love it. And then after the event, you were like, I'm literally 4 feet off the ground. That was one of the most fun things I've ever done. I'm so grateful I did it. And I was like, great, this is just the beginning. And now you're doing a 3-day like online sort of like boot campy kind of thing. And it's going to be awesome. And it's been so fun to watch you arrive at what you built. Like, go, oh my God, I really did build something so special. Right. So I want to get into a little bit of the content because it's so good. Let's talk about the episodes. Let's talk about what lights you up. Let's talk about how you interview. Let's talk about the content of the Flexible Neurotic and what is your goal in the episodes that you're hoping women are walking away with. And let's just talk about what makes the content so juicy.
I think for me, a lot of people ask me, well, how do you find your guests and how do you pick a topic? And a lot of those kinds of questions. And for me, because I'd like to say that I'm an intuitive person and I try to trust my instinct, even though I doubt myself, just like everyone else does. Like, I have my inner bitch going in my head going, you can't do that. That's too hard. No one's going to come. All of that is happening. But I'm trying to mute it and manage it. The way I do it is I try to take any kind of topic that I'm curious about as it relates to midlife. Why am I sweating? Why do I not want to have sex with my husband? Why do I feel bored as fuck? Why all these things? And then I try to find guests who can help answer those questions. And I don't have a fancy way of getting a guest. I don't have a VA who does it for me. Because I'm so active on Instagram, because I'm always responding to people, I just literally DM people directly myself. Like, hey, I'm Sarah. I have a midlife self-reinvention podcast. I love your platform. I really think you can bring a lot to my listeners. I would love to have you on. And I think I've gotten maybe one no, and that was from like a really famous person. Do you know what I mean? So everyone else has been like, hell yeah, of course I will. You have basically a dedicated midlife audience that's really, really engaged. And it's like a quid pro quo. It's like they take the time to come on my podcast, then they get a bunch of followers from my listeners who are listening to their podcast. So it's kind of like a very nice symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
So for me, it's picking topics that relate to midlife, but not every episode is on menopause because it's not a menopause podcast.
Right.
It's a midlife self-reinvention podcast and anything that goes with that. So you can be reinventing your vagina. You can, be reinventing like what's next for you now that your kids are leaving or have gone. It can be, kind of, how to find hobbies that feel fulfilling to you. So it's anything that's related, but it doesn't have to be like so specific. And or like there's a nutritionist that I think brings like a really good angle, or I bring on a gynecologist who's like, you know what, you guys, I see menopause this way. And everyone I bring on, I have to love. So I don't ever like think, oh, I'm not sure about that, and then bring them on. For me, this project, this whole platform and podcast and community is about resonance and something that feels good. I never bring on people that I think are going to be boring or because I have to. Like at this point, I'm like, I love you and I want you.
Yep.
And I
I love
think
that.
people feel that when they listen to it. It's not like, oh, she just brought her on because she's on every other podcast.
Yep.
No, some of the people I have on my podcast are like big time people, and some of them are people no one's ever heard of before. But my listeners don't care because if the information is good and it relates to them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. In about 15 minutes, I'm going to ask Sarah some questions that you guys have. So you can think about putting those later, but you don't have to do it right now. In between now and then, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, Sarah, which
Sure.
is that I'm curious, having now DM'd and been so social on social media and so active with your listeners, what do you feel like is the biggest thing on women's hearts who are in your audience? What have you learned about your audience? What are they struggling with, and what are they like excited about, and what makes them like want to kind of be adventurous? Like, what have you learned that's true for them?
There's 100 things, but I think at the base of everything, just like every human being, everyone wants to feel seen and heard. And I think that by the time you get to midlife, not for everyone, but most people, you start like for a lot of women who have been moms, especially stay-at-home moms, where their whole lives have been focused on kind of managing the kids in their everyday, they have sort of lost track of themselves, given up the exercise routines, not sort of maintain their mental health, all of the things. So they start, me included, start feeling invisible, start feeling irrelevant. Now that my kids are older and they're not always home or they're at college, it's like, well, what role do I serve right now? Who am I? Does it matter that I'm even here, and who cares? And I think this community of midlife women really connects on the basis of connecting with each other, feeling seen and heard, and knowing that you're not alone. You're not crazy. These midlife feelings are real. You're not crazy. You're sweating for a reason. You can't sleep for a reason. And not everyone in the world understands that this is like a real thing. Obviously, the narrative is changing now because so many women, like even celebrities, Oprah, Naomi Watts, all the people are talking about this honestly and in a vulnerable way, and kind of taking the shame and the taboo out of it. So having said that, it's like if we can all connect and realize that we're not alone, it makes the journey so much easier. Like I just dropped my son off at college like 10 days ago, my firstborn, and that's really hard. And there's so many other women who are going through that same journey right now as we speak, or they've done it a year ago or 5 years ago. But knowing that you're not crazy and you're not the only person, and that there are other people who are willing to talk about it with you is so helpful. And I think that when you're talking about engagement and like the comments on the Instagram, it's basically people going, wait, me too. Wait, me too. Wait, I have to talk to my husband now more that my kids are gone. Wait, me too. I'm confused. So I think it's a lot of I think the base is feeling seen and heard and wanting to feel relevant again.
Yes, this is all so good. And so in doing this, I feel like one of the things that I hear, and I even hear it in myself, like, let's all be really brutally honest, like, there's a way in which we're wired from like the beginning of humanity where we want to belong.
Yeah.
So there's a fear that's like inside of our like cells that says, don't fully be honest if that could potentially mean that people will, you know, walk away. So it takes a tremendous amount of conscious, intentional action to be authentic. And that is if I had to choose a word for you, I'd be like authentic. Like that's the word I would probably grab. And that's saying a lot because you're so beautiful, but I would still be like, I think even more than that, if we can believe it, it's being authentic. So when you're having those moments where you're about to share something or post something or say something, and it's like extremely raw, and you're having this thought, like, I'm literally going to go turn on the camera, even though I'm actually bawling and I'm so sad. And then there's a thought in your head, I'm sure, that's like, but people are not going to think that you're as like expert as you are if you actually are falling apart right now. And then you do it anyway. Like, what guidance or what gentle advice or suggestion would you give for the moments where we know what the truth is, and then we're not feeling brave enough to share that truth for whatever the reason is? Because ultimately, I really think like that's the greatest freedom and satisfaction we'll ever know, is just living an authentic life. So what allows you to just say, screw it, I'm like sharing it anyway, posting it anyway?
I know that I'm helping other women who are in the same boat. It's like a lifeline. Look, do I want to be the crying person on Instagram? Absolutely not. But I also think at the same time, there are moments that are so relatable and so helpful to other people. Like, think of how many women are dropping kids off at college and how just heartbreaking that feels. And to know that you're not the only person that feels that way, to know that like you can be a happy person and have a good marriage and all of those things and still be sad and still be feeling irrelevant. It's all okay. I think for me, it's that. And I will, in all honesty, when I started my Instagram, like I didn't even know how to post a story or like anything. And at the beginning of Instagram, I was more guarded. It was more like the podcast is about this, and this is what the episode is, but it wasn't so much like about me. But what was interesting about it is that I'm a really honest, real person in real life and on my podcast. And what I realized was that the authenticity that was in my podcast episodes of me like oversharing, as my kids would say, like TMI, and like really getting into it and asking guests questions that are like all on our minds, but nobody wants to ask. I realized that my Instagram didn't match that. And there was a disconnect between Sarah on her Instagram and Sarah on her podcast. And nobody said that to me, but I felt it. And I thought, I need to make these two things match, or it doesn't feel authentic. And that doesn't mean that I'm sharing every single second of my life, but once I started sharing really more about my everyday life on Instagram, and people saw that I was like a real person that matched the real person on the podcast, there was there was just more synergy. It just made more sense.
I
And
love that.
and I think that with all of these things that people are trying or trying out for themselves, I know it sounds trite to say, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Being scared and doing it anyway is the only way. And confidence is a muscle like anything else. And you talk about that too. It's like you're never going to feel ready. Nothing's ever going to be done right in your, or perfect. But if you don't just get over yourself and do it, there's no growth. You just stay in the same place. And I describe it as like the midlife hamster wheel of being comfortable. And being comfortable is boring as fuck.
That's so true. Fear is so boring. It's just so boring. It's just the same predictable Groundhog Day, comfort, boredom, blah. And the thing about what you just shared, which is so cool, is like you really helped us like illuminate you were different on Instagram than you are everywhere else. It's like, why? You know, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, be consistent. Like, this is who you are. It's your feed. It's your life. I mean, it's you having your own experience of things. So why would you create it to be like you're like an avatar? You know, it's weird. And I feel like everyone that I know who approached podcasting this way blew up in podcasting. And people are like, well, how did you grow your audience? And I'm like, that's how. There's no other way I did it. I don't know to this day, if somebody were to hand me like, this is the hashtag you use, and when you use it, it goes like this. It's like, I always say like, that'd be the worst thing in the world. Cause then everyone, even with bad content, would use it. And then it would be meaningless, right? Everyone would get this many followers, and then we wouldn't be able to know what's good from what's not. It doesn't work. There is no thing that works. However, what does work is it's the humanity, it's the glue. And so when people can sense that you're not fully curating something, when people can sense that there's a little bit of this real, sticky, authentic humanity in what you're putting out, they are intrigued by that. And then they don't just listen, they kind of make this like their thing. Like they feel like they discovered it. Like, oh my God, do you know who I love? Because they feel like you are an ambassador for them. And then they tell their friend. So then they're talking about this part of themselves that they feel you represent. And then they have to tell their friend, she's like us. So then they think that they have this incredible like discovery. And then their friends are all like, you're our people, you know? And so then you grow this incredibly deep, connected audience. Like, I wish I could show you guys, and I can't, and I won't even share the names because it would be so unethical, but I know the back end of the actual businesses of people in my sphere who have much bigger vanity metrics, but the back end of the business is the same or a little bit less than what my business generates as a business. And it's because there's a lot that looks like it's there, but as far as the engagement factor, it's much less. And so then what that means is those people are not super fans. They're not following you to the ends of the earth. They're just kind of, they're like, I'll keep this in my feed because maybe every 9 posts, there's like a nugget I need. That's very different than, oh my God, I have to see Sarah's stories today. She's hysterical. She's so funny. She's all over the place, just like me. That's very different. And so I want you guys to really hear it. That's why I wanted Sarah to come on. I want you to feel it. Like, it's not up here, it's in here. It's like if you were to walk into your life from this place that you can feel you're feeling into in this moment as we speak it over you. So then what additional stuff might you share? What like quirky or edgy or struggle or thing that you think makes you a little bit eccentric, or think like that will wind up being the glue? Because whatever guests you have on, especially if they write a book, like I just texted Emma, I was like, oh, here's a good book, Never Enough, a book that examines toxic achievement culture. I'm like, cool, have her on. I'm sure she's already been on 1,700 podcasts. So what's going to make it different is the me part of it, right? It's that little extra thing that's going to be some way I say something that sort of illuminates the vulnerability in myself. And then people go, well, I can listen to this woman on all those podcasts, but I'm going to listen to her on Cathy's podcast because Cathy shows up for the podcast. So it's not just like an interview with index cards and like this woman's like a talking head, right? So Sarah, I think that's what you do so unbelievably well. And
Thank
I also
you.
want to point out, and this is maybe something you can talk about now, your own struggle with getting in your head and imposter syndrome, because some people, many people are going to look at you at this moment and go, holy shit, I wish I was where you are. And to know that even at any place, you're still going, but how am I not over there? And I'll sit with her at dinner for 9 hours and be like, stop, like it's already happened. You have this thing called audience. Audience is currency. Audience is everything. You just have to allow yourself. And I don't know if you want to talk about that struggle, but Sarah gets in her own way with like, but it's like asking people to spend money, and all of a sudden you're like, but they want to, right? Like we want to go to your house. We want to hang out with you. We're going to spend that money on something else like that. So you may as well be the one. And still for you, that's hard.
It's really hard. I think for me, because I was so committed to wanting to show up for people in like this authentic kind of best friend sort of way. And I didn't charge money for anything, that when it came time to have this live event with this price tag, I just felt so out of my mind. I felt so outside of my comfort zone. And then I met you and you were like, but every single step of this is stepping outside of your comfort zone. And then right when you get comfortable, you got to go to the next thing. Otherwise, it becomes the hamster wheel again. So for me, it was like, okay, I created the Instagram, the platform, I've created the podcast. Like, what's my next step? And my next step was having the live event and getting through all of those little obstacles. So then the live event happened. It was amazing. And like the women who came to that event, like we're still on a group text. And like, I already got a message this morning and like from all of them, like, it's like this woman's having a breast reduction surgery. This woman, just dropped off 3 kids at different colleges. Another woman's, and it's not like, I'm talking to them all day long, every day, but it's like knowing that you have kind of like this midlife check-in spot just feels so good. Knowing that other women are in that same stage with you. And going back to your question about kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone and going to the next thing, I was like, okay, I need to create an online version for all the people who couldn't come to my live event. Oh my God, that feels so hard. How do I do that? No one's going to want to come to a Zoom. That feels weird. I don't know how to do all the emails on the back end. And it's like, there are so many things. So I created a 3-day free workshop that's coming up on September 19th, 20th, and 21st. It's an hour a day on Zoom. And I'm like, okay, I've never done this before. This feels really scary. I'm going to do this. And then like last night, the computer database, whatever, like sent out an email randomly to all my subscribers. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I can't deal with this anymore. I just want to like pack my bags and go. And then I stopped myself and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Everyone got an extra email. No one's going to die. And I just put it away. And I wouldn't have been able to do that 6 months ago, a year ago. I would have been spinning and spinning about it. And then I just kept like kind of reharnessing my brain and going, okay, Sarah, things happen. Messy shit happens, and then a few days ago, the same database that is still glitchy sent out an email to everyone with one person's name. So everybody got Dear Madison. Okay. Like, what the fuck? I've spent 14 days creating this. And now, Dear Madison, to all thousands of my email subscribers, like, what? So my point in saying all of this is there's always something. And like, yes, you see Amy Porterfield and Cathy Heller and all these amazing superstars in their field, but they all didn't start out like that. And those are the things that I have to keep reminding myself is, all thousands of people getting Dear Madison. It's a little weird. It's a little annoying, but like, I can't take it back. I can't change it. So I can either stress about it or just move on to the next thing. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's always like, what's okay? What can I do right now to challenge myself? then when that gets comfortable, then what's the next challenge? Because I have found in my midlife journey, I call it the midlife remix, because midlife crisis is like, it's happening to us.
Right.
The midlife remix is like, we have agency. And I think that that is one of the keys in midlife, is realizing that no one's coming to save us. No one's going to knock on your door and go, Cathy, the coffee is doing it to you. And then you should do these 17 things. And then you're going to sleep through the night and you're going to want to have sex with your husband. And then you're going to feel really purposeful and all the things. Nobody's coming to do that. The only person who can get those answers is you. And how you do it is your responsibility. Like, somebody can go listen to a podcast. Somebody can call 5 different doctors, call a friend. It's all going to look different, but it's whatever's comfortable for you. And I feel like that's what I try to do with my podcast is I will bring you all the relevant experts, but it's up to you to figure out what works for you. Like, one expert is saying intermittent fasting is the key to all things. Another expert is saying, yeah, but if the intermittent fasting is doing this, this, and this to you, like, maybe that doesn't work for you. And so I'm just trying to bring all the different ideas to the table, and not everything is going to work for everyone. And it's the same thing with building a podcast. Like, some people only record on Thursdays and they record 5 episodes on a Thursday. So they just get it done. I totally get that. For me, that doesn't work, because every time I record a podcast, I've spent 12 to 15 hours researching that person because I'm a nerd. And then the episode is an hour and a half. So for me, doing 5 of those or even 3 of those, I couldn't do it. It's like having a baby every time I create a podcast episode. And it doesn't need to be that hard. But for me, my point is for me, it's easier to spread it out over the week, the podcast recordings, whereas somebody else just does it all in one day. But finding what works for you and not giving a shit how everyone else does it is the key to it. Because it doesn't matter what works for someone else. It only matters what works for you and just getting it done.
Yeah, that's all such good stuff. And I just want to say one thing before I'll take questions from everybody. But I think the biggest thing that I can think of that would be such a win for midlife remix is to let go of codependency. Like, honest to God, when I look at every problem that women have when they get in their head, it's like some version of a codependency. It's some version of what are they going to think? Or like even Dear Madison, it's like, now you're owning that all these people have beliefs about you. Or when you go to charge for something, it's like, oh my God, I'm in their business now. I'm thinking about them and how they're going to receive this. And when you think about how good it feels to let that go and to just be clean, like to just be direct and say, this is what I think, this is what I charge, this is what this is, and then allow people to be grown-ass adults and allow people to make their own decisions and not try to constantly like think ahead of how you can get their approval. Like, that's the grossest, most exhausting thing. And here's what I've learned too, is that no one cares. No one cares enough, because they're so wrapped up in themselves. They don't spend that much time going, I'm going to really spend like an hour today thinking about Sarah and how ridiculous she was to send that email. Like, I'm going to call a friend about it. I'm going to text my husband about it. Like, I care that much that she made a mistake. They care for 7 seconds. That's how long they can give you of their own time. And here you are like, oh my God, I'm ready to pack it in. And she gave you 7 seconds. That's all she could give you, right? So the things that we won't do because of what people will say, it's like people also, you don't want to rob people of their own agency. Like yesterday, my husband went to go take out the garbage after my daughter's little family birthday gathering. And he comes back in and he's wearing my Fendi sandals. And I'm like, you put them on and you're going to like stretch them. And he's like, look at me. Now I can be a jerk in Fendi sandals. And he's being like silly. And it was funny. And then I was like, do you know how good I felt buying those sandals for myself? I was like, do you know that I enjoy them because I spent that money? Do you know that if someone would have handed me them for free and said, oh, I have a hookup at Nordstrom or Neiman Marcus, whatever, here, you can have them. I love that I went on a Wednesday. I remember it clearly. And I was like, I'm not feeling so great. I'm going to do a retail therapy. And I like drove to Neiman Marcus and like they give you champagne and I walked around and like put my feet in all the different shoes and touched them and looked at the Valentino and just enjoyed it. And it's like a museum in there. And then I bought myself these sandals and I walked out and I like walked down Roxbury and like took in the breeze and like all the butterflies were like more visible to me. That's because it feels good to spend money on things that I value. And we want to take that away from people. We want to be like, you shouldn't have that level of satisfaction and that feeling of stretch that you care enough to invest in yourself. So I'll take that from you. And then I'll feel bad about the fact that like, I have all these opinions about what people think and the way the world is. And like, let's let people be grown-ass adults and let's be real and let's not patronize people. And let's like, just be direct. This is what I think. This is what I charge. And here's what's so beautiful about it. You don't have to like me or pay me. Your tax dollars don't go to me. So you don't even have to have an opinion about me, right? I'm not beholden to you. And if this feels good to you, here's the invitation. Come and join us, right? It's amazing how that actually helps them because don't they need to do that in their own life? And who's going to eventually be the domino to show that modeling? No one? Well, that's the problem. Men don't do that. Men are like, this is what I think. And then someone's like, I disagree. They're like, cool, you want to play golf? It doesn't matter. Oh, you voted for the other guy? Okay. You want to play golf? You know? Oh, you're gay, you're not straight? Okay. You want to hang out? I don't care. They don't care. They're just like, move on with it. Here's what I charge. The person's like, I'm not going to do the deal. They're like, okay. You want to go see a movie? Like, we're like, oh my God, I can't even say what I'm going to charge. And she's going to roll her eyes. It's like, maybe not. Maybe get over it. Right. So just some food for thought. Sarah, I just want you to tell everybody where they can find your podcast, where they can follow you in this 3-day boot camp and all those things.
My Instagram is The Flexible Neurotic. Spell neurotic right, because every time I type it in, I spell it wrong. NEU. I have to spell check even myself. So Instagram, The Flexible Neurotic. I have a website, www.theflexibleneurotic.com. And at the top of the website, there is a banner that says 3-day free workshop. I think it's www.theflexibleneurotic.com/free workshop.
Thank you, Jen. She put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I so appreciate all of you guys listening. And if any of you have any questions, I am a very accessible, reachable person. I think that's part of when people ask me like, how did you build your Instagram so quickly? It's because I am the one responding. I get to everyone eventually. It may not be immediately, but I really try. And if I had a piece of advice in terms of building an Instagram, is be that person. It takes extra time, but it's worth 1,000-fold, because the time you put in on the front end, those people begin to like and trust you and know that you're going to be there for them and you're not just like a face on Instagram. And I think if you asked any of my quote super fans, they would say that. They're like, Sarah's a real human and she responds to everything and she always gets you the answer that, you ask or whatever. So if that would be my one piece of advice, is be a real person.
And that's the last thing I also want to say is that with all of these things, whether it's growing your Instagram, growing the podcast following, building the business, choosing the clarity for which way the business is going to go, it really is always a mirror to your energetic. It's the same thing with like when you met the person, right? Why all of a sudden did it work out on the apps, or did someone introduce you? You are in that energy. You can't miss it when it is. It's like there's a lightness in your being. There's a way in which you're vibing. You're just available for it. And when you're available for an audience to see you, and when you're no longer attached and you're not making a lot of meaning out of it, you're not coming from desperate energy, and when you're really showing up because you're so effusive and you're just in that flow and your momentum is there and you're texting with people and you're enjoying it and you're just enjoying this whole thing, it can't help but find you because you are there as a reflection for it. And so when you're really looking at where is the momentum or where isn't the momentum, it's a response to where you are. And if you can check in and go, well, if I'm being honest, I'm feeling a lot of self-doubt, or I'm constantly judging myself, or I haven't been social on social media at all in the last 4 weeks, or I'm constantly overthinking this, or this isn't joyful and it's not fun. And I'm making meaning out of every like and every not like and all this stuff. It's like, then no one wants to be in that party. Your vibe is the party you're inviting people to. And when there is a lightness in your being and there's a joy in every step and you are just there creating and learning and excited, it can't not happen. People are like, you're so great. I love this. There's a lightness in the way you DM'd that. And I just could feel it. And so I put you over here and I could feel in your vibe. It's like, it just doesn't stop. And then all the opportunities come. The good news is that most people are hanging out somewhere in a lower vibe, most of the time with a lot of things, which is why they hang out on the dating apps year after year after year. And they keep talking about the thing they haven't finished and the project they want to get off the ground. And they just hang out there and hang out there. When you just decide, like Sarah did 2.5 years ago, something just lit it. And it actually was like the light turned on. It wasn't like an almost on, it turned on. It was like, boom, this is me showing up for a good time as my experience, in my real experience, having these conversations, gonna enjoy these women, and wow, something really beautiful comes from that. And isn't it cool that that is how life actually works? Isn't it cool that really it is a reflection to your willingness, your allowing of it, and your flowing actually in something that's your actual alignment, not you trying to tell the world that you're ready when like everything about you is like not feeling ready, not feeling called, not feeling sure. Like, you get to decide. And when you do, the world will literally show up and rally for you. And so I love this conversation. So glad that we had it. Love the questions. And Sarah, thank you so much for.
Thank you. I mean,
here.
I just want to say as a final thought, there will always be Dear Madison days, always. And you can check into the UGG hotel of, oh my God, this is so hard and why me? But just don't stay there too long. And if you are there too long, ask for help, get help. Don't stay in UGG hotel too long, because the midlife runway, the way I see it, is it's long. We're all living longer. We have so much more time ahead of us. I mean, I'm going to be 50 when both my kids are in college. My life's not over. It's just starting again. I have so much time.
It's so true. I interviewed, oh my gosh, I just forgot her name. She's so amazing. What's her name, you guys? Is it Gladys? Dr. Gladys? She's like 103 and her son is in his 80s and he's also a doctor. And she's like, he's asking if he should retire. I'm like, come correct, son. She's like, you're just getting started. She's writing her 3rd book at 103. I'm like, what are we doing? And if everybody watches Dan Buettner's show on Netflix and learns about living into your hundreds, then really, like, you're just getting started. So the good stuff is just beginning. I love you guys. I hope that this was blessings for you today. It felt like it for me. Sarah, you're the best.
Love you.
I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.